Imagine for a second that you're walking into this brightly lit, totally state-of-the-art hospital room.
Okay.
And sitting right there in the center of it is a 5,000-year-old medical tradition.
Right. Which is a wild visual.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a tradition that has survived empires, millennia of changing climates, countless generations of human evolution.
Yeah.
But now it's sitting in the 21st century global court of medicine. And the judge is looking down, asking for one very specific thing, which is, well, proof.
Proof. Exactly.
So today we're diving into an impassioned keynote address. It's directed at modern Vaidyas, which is the traditional term for Ayurvedic practitioners.
Right.
And the address is titled The Alchemy of Evidence by the Guru Ramdev R. Our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack this profound dilemma. We're looking at how the survival of this ancient medicine relies entirely on its practitioners mastering a very modern language.
The language of data.
Exactly, the language of data. Okay, so let's unpack this because it really is, well, it's the ultimate collision of worlds, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You have ancient mysticism coming right up against modern mathematics. I mean, Ayurveda has survived for 5 millennia through an unbroken lineage of knowledge and, well, through clinical results.
People actually got better.
Exactly. People got better. But in the modern world, a clinical result that isn't documented according to very strict standardized metrics, it's just dismissed.
Just totally brushed aside.
Right. It's dismissed as a mere anecdote. And the keynote refers to this rather starkly as the crisis of silence.
The crisis of silence. Wow.
Because in the global medical infrastructure, an anecdote is essentially a ghost.
A ghost. I like that.
Right. Oh. It might haunt the halls of possibility, and sure, a doctor might hear a story about a remarkable recovery, but a ghost just doesn't have the substance to change public policy.
Right. A ghost doesn't get you a billing code.
Yeah.
It doesn't rewrite international medical guidelines or convince an insurance board to actually cover a treatment. So the challenge here requires this massive philosophical shift, and it makes me think of an analogy. It's kind of like trying to run a legacy iOS application on a brand new Windows computer.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. Like the internal code of that app might be flawless.
Yeah.
It might perform its function perfectly, but without an emulator.
Without that translation.
Yeah, without a piece of software actively translating that code into a language the Windows operating system can understand, the machine just errors out. It just doesn't recognize the program at all.
That is the perfect way to frame it. And to build that emulator, practitioners really have to reconsider the Ayurvedic concept of pramana.
Pramana.
Right, which is the philosophical means of obtaining valid knowledge. So traditionally, the foundation of this knowledge was aptopadesha, which is the authoritative testimony of the sages.
Okay, so like the ancient texts.
Yeah. If the ancient masters wrote that a specific botanical blend worked, and you observed it working in your clinical lineage, well, that was all the validation required.
Right, that was enough.
It was. But the modern medical establishment demands pratyaksha, which is direct perception, and anumana, which is inference.
Right.
And crucially, those observations must be backed by measurable objective variables.
So let's make this really tangible for you listening.
Yeah.
Say a patient comes in with severe chronic psoriasis.
Okay.
And they undergo Ayurvedic care, specifically a blood purifying protocol called Rakta Shodhana.
Right.
Over a few months, their skin completely clears out. But if that practitioner doesn't track the data, if they don't have the before and after inflammatory markers, the liver enzyme panels, the standardized photographic timelines.
Did that cure really happen?
Exactly.
Yeah.
To the Western medical establishment, the answer is no. It just gets cataloged as a spontaneous remission.
Right, a statistical anomaly.
Yeah, and the treatment gets 0 credit.
Which is incredibly frustrating. And think about your own life, Anytime you've known with absolute certainty that something worked for your own body, like maybe a certain dietary change eliminated your joint pain, or a specific breathing exercise cured your insomnia.
But you couldn't prove it.
Exactly. You couldn't prove it to a physician because you didn't have a lab test to validate the shift. And that is the exact frustration these Vaidya's face, but multiplied across a global healthcare system.
Wow.
The mandate in this address is to move practitioners from the subjective statement of, I feel this works, to the objective reality of the data shows this works.
So they have to learn the language of biomarkers.
Precisely.
But wait, if I'm a Vaidya listening to this, I'm probably thinking, if I just start running blood panels all day and obsessing over biomarkers, aren't I just throwing out Ayurveda?
It's the fear, yeah.
Don't they lose the essence of the medicine if they just discard their traditional diagnostic tools just to appease a Western laboratory?
It's a completely understandable fear, and the keynote actually addresses it directly. The objective here is not replacement.
Okay.
It's augmentation. They are tasked with creating a hybrid protocol.
A hybrid protocol.
Right. You keep the subjective soul of the ancient practice, but you build an objective bridge to modern science.
Give me an example of that.
So let's look at the classical threefold examination, the Trividha Pariksha. The first pillar is darshana, observation.
Okay.
A traditional practitioner doesn't just look at a patient's physical symptoms. They assess their chaya, their overall luster, and their prabha, their radiance.
Which are beautifully intuitive, right?
Right.
But basically impossible to code into a medical database.
Exactly.
And this is where the integration comes in. Because for the second pillar, prashna, which is questioning, a practitioner might traditionally assess the bodily channels related to sleep.
Right.
But asking a patient, how are you sleeping? That's way too vague for modern analytics.
Too subjective.
Yeah. So practitioners are now urged to use the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index, the PSQI.
Right, alongside their traditional assessment.
Exactly. They're pairing this deeply holistic evaluation with a globally recognized, standardized scale.
And the same rigor applies to the third pillar, sparshana, or touch. So pulse diagnosis, known as nadi, is central to Ayurvedic medicine.
Right, feeling the pulse.
Yeah, a skilled practitioner can feel these very subtle imbalances in the body just by taking the pulse. But the new directive is that you can no longer simply document the pulse in traditional terms.
You need the modern data.
Yes. You have to describe the rate, the rhythm, and the volume in a vocabulary that directly correlates with modern cardiovascular hemodynamics.
Wow.
You're creating an objective shadow for every single traditional diagnosis.
An objective shadow. Let's dig into the mechanics of that shadow, because this is where the translation gets incredibly precise in the source material.
Let's do it.
So, if a practitioner is treating amavata, which correlates to rheumatoid arthritis, they can't just document that the patient reports less joint stiffness.
Right, that's not enough anymore.
They have to track the ESR, the C-reactive protein, and the anti-CCP levels. By tracking C-reactive protein, they're providing a totally quantifiable measurement of systemic inflammation produced by the liver. Exactly.
So when that number drops, a modern rheumatologist doesn't have to understand Ayurveda at all to know the treatment is actually working.
Right. They just read the numbers. And you see this bridge beautifully constructed with liver disorders too, or kamala.
Okay, what's the shadow for that?
The modern shadow requires logging liver function tests and FibroScan scores. There's this specific herb called bumyamalaki, heavily utilized in Ayurvedic hepatology.
Bumyamalaki.
Traditionally, it's understood to clear heat and stagnation from the liver.
Right.
But the modern mandate asks practitioners to track how this herb improves the diuresis ratio.
Oh, let's break that down because the diuresis ratio is fascinating. It's the ratio of two enzymes in the blood, AST to ALT.
Right.
And when liver cells are damaged or dying, they leak these enzymes into the bloodstream.
Which spikes the numbers.
Exactly. So by documenting that bumyamalaki stabilizes that specific AST to ALT ratio, the practitioner isn't just saying, well, the liver's cooler.
They're proving, biochemically, that the herb is actively stabilizing hepatocyte membranes and halting cellular death.
It's undeniable proof.
Yeah. Suddenly, a hepatologist in Tokyo or London can look at that chart and instantly comprehend the physiological impact of a 5,000-year-old botanical.
You're translating the ancient result into a universally understood metric. And I have to say, nowhere is this translation more critical than in an area of Ayurveda that suffers from profound misunderstanding in the West.
Oh, I know where you're going with this. Panchakarma.
Panchakarma, yes.
Panchakarma is the intensive detoxification protocol. But in the West, it's been so heavily commodified.
It really has.
People hear the word and they picture like a luxury spa weekend. Cucumber water, a gentle massage, maybe a steam room.
And the keynote tackles this Western skepticism head-on. It completely acknowledges that Panchakarma is often dismissed as mere spa therapy.
Right.
But it argues this dismissal is actually the fault of poor documentation.
So it's a branding problem, basically.
A data problem, yeah. Practitioners have failed to document the deep systemic physiological shifts that occur during these intense purification processes known as Shodhana.
So what are they supposed to do?
The new clinical mandate is to rigorously measure what they call the metabolic shift.
The metabolic shift. And the physiological mechanics behind this are just incredible to look at in the text. Like, take snehapana, which is the internal oleation phase.
Yes, the ghee.
Right. This involves a patient drinking therapeutic, progressively increasing amounts of ghee-clarified butter over several days.
Which sounds crazy to modern medicine.
Totally. To a Western cardiologist, prescribing massive doses of saturated fat sounds like absolute malpractice.
Oh, yeah.
But the clinical data shows that lipid profiles and cholesterol actually normalize after the subsequent purgation phase called virachana.
Let's look at exactly how that happens, though, because you aren't just feeding the patient fat.
Right.
By introducing that high volume of ghee, you're forcing the gallbladder to contract aggressively.
Okay.
This flushes out stagnant, cholesterol-rich bile that's basically accumulated in the biliary system.
Interesting.
Then, the purgation phase rapidly moves that bile through the gastrointestinal tract and expels it before the cholesterol can be reabsorbed into the bloodstream.
Wow, so you're effectively initiating a mechanical reset of the body's lipid metabolism.
Exactly. And by documenting the lipid panels before and after, you prove it's a profound metabolic intervention. It's not just a dietary quirk.
That's amazing. Then we also have Basti, which involves medicated enemas. The address actually refers to this as the holy grail of modern Ayurvedic research.
The holy grail, yes.
Because for a long time, Western medicine viewed enemas merely as a mechanical way to clear the bowel. But we're now discovering how Basti fundamentally alters microbiome diversity.
Right. The mechanism here relies on bypassing the highly acidic environment of the stomach entirely.
Okay.
By introducing herbal decoctions directly into the colon, you're performing a prebiotic flush.
A prebiotic flush.
Yeah, the specific properties of the herbs strip away dysbiotic or harmful bacteria, while simultaneously creating an environment that encourages healthy gut flora to just thrive.
And given the current Western obsession with the gut-brain axis and the microbiome, I mean, translating Basti into the language of gastroenterology opens up a massive avenue for cross-cultural validation.
Oh, it changes everything.
I also want to look at Shirodhara. This is the treatment where practitioners continuously pour a steady stream of warm, medicated oil over the patient's forehead.
Right.
And again, it sounds incredibly relaxing. It looks like the ultimate spa treatment.
It does.
But the data proves it's doing far more than just soothing the patient.
It is actively shifting the state of the nervous system.
How so?
Well, the continuous rhythmic pressure of the oil on the forehead stimulates specific mechanoreceptors in the skin.
Okay.
These receptors send direct signals down the vagus nerve, which basically acts as the master control switch for the parasympathetic nervous system.
So it forces the body out of that sympathetic fight or flight state.
Exactly, and into a rest and digest state. And practitioners can objectively prove this by measuring heart rate variability, or HRV, during and after the treatment.
Yes, and the address coins this brilliant phrase for it. They call it evidence-based relaxation.
Evidence-based relaxation.
I just love that. But mapping all of these ancient practices onto lab results brings up another tension.
It does.
Because if we start translating everything into lipid panels, vagus nerve stimulation, and microbiome diversity, do we risk reductionism?
That's the danger.
Right. If you take a deeply holistic, interconnected system and just reduce it to chemical reactions and herbal medicine, don't you destroy the philosophy that actually makes it work?
It is a really delicate tightrope walk. The fear is definitely that by atomizing the medicine into isolated data points, you lose that macro, holistic perspective.
So how do they handle that?
The keynote manages this fear by introducing the framework of systems biology.
Systems biology.
Yeah. The goal isn't to abandon the ancient concepts, but to create a scientific translation that explains how the ancient texts, the Shastras, function at a molecular level.
So here's where it gets really interesting. They're essentially providing practitioners with a new script, right?
Yes.
A way to upgrade their vocabulary without losing their clinical intent. So for example, instead of saying, this herb balances vata,
Which holds deep meaning for an Ayurvedic doctor, but means absolutely nothing to a Western scientist.
Right. Instead of saying that, the practitioner is taught to say, this Vata Shama protocol modulates the sympathetic nervous system and regulates the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
You're taking a macro holistic concept like Vata, which governs movement and nervous system activity in Ayurveda,
Yeah.
and you're mapping it perfectly onto the corresponding systemic network in modern biology.
Because the HPA axis controls our stress response, which is exactly what a Vata imbalance disrupts.
And we see this translation again with the concept of ama.
Oh, ama, yes. In the West, ama is usually loosely translated as toxins.
Right.
which is a word that instantly makes modern scientists roll their eyes because it sounds like, marketing jargon.
It sounds like a juice cleanse.
Totally.
But let's define ama conceptually first. Think of it as metabolic ash.
Metabolic ash.
Yeah, when a fire doesn't burn cleanly, it leaves behind a thick, heavy soot. In the human body, when digestion is weak, the incomplete breakdown of food leaves behind macromolecules.
Okay.
These unprocessed molecules cross the gut barrier and are recognized by the immune system as foreign invaders.
Which triggers a widespread immune response.
Exactly.
So instead of saying, this formulation cleanses ama, the new vocabulary asks the practitioner to say, this formulation targets metabolic endotoxemia and reduces systemic inflammation by inhibiting pro-inflammatory cytokines like IL-6 and TNF-alpha.
It's the exact same biological event.
Just using the precision of modern immunology.
Right. And by doing this, the practitioner gives the ancient concept actual weight in a modern laboratory. They're defining its biological mechanism.
So for you listening, imagine you had to learn an incredibly complex second language.
Yeah, a really hard one.
You have to master all the grammar, the nuanced syntax, the vocabulary, just so you could finally explain the profound emotional depth of your native tongue to someone who has never heard a single word of it before.
That's a great analogy.
That is what these practitioners are being asked to do with systems biology.
But to do that effectively, to actually change the global perspective on this medicine, this new language has to be spoken at scale.
Right. A handful of bilingual doctors isn't enough.
And not at all. The entire profession has to adopt the vocabulary.
Which brings us to the actual blueprint for the future.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you implement this massive shift across thousands of clinics?
The address lays out a very strict call to action for this. Every single doctor is urged to publish at least one case report a year.
Okay.
And they're required to use the modern care guidelines, the case report guidelines.
Which serve as the international standard for medical publishing.
Exactly. But they must add a comprehensive Ayurvedic appendix.
An Ayurvedic appendix. So what are the specific details they need for that?
The framework they're asked to use is intensely detailed just to ensure nothing of the holistic picture is lost in translation.
Right.
First, they have to define the patient's archetype. This means documenting their prakriti, which is their natural baseline genetic constitution.
Alongside their vikriti, right?
Yes, their vikriti, which is their current state of disease or imbalance. Modern medicine is just now moving toward personalized medicine. Ayurveda has been doing it for millennia, but now it must be formalized on paper.
Got it. Next comes the precise intervention details. Like, a practitioner can't just write down prescribed ashwagandha.
No, that's way too simple.
They have to document the anupana, the vehicle used to deliver the medicine. Because taking an herb with warm water versus taking it with honey completely changes its absorption kinetics in the body.
It really does. They also have to log the Bishajakala. It's the exact timing of the dose in relation to meals and circadian rhythms.
Oh, wow. And they also need visual timelines, right?
Yes. Imagine a graph that plots the steady drop in a patient's blood sugar over 3 months, directly mapped against the administration of a traditional formulation, like, say, Vasant Kusumakar Ras.
That visual correlation between the botanical intervention and the metabolic response, I mean, that's undeniable.
It is. Furthermore, they are mandated to heavily document safety through adverse event logs.
Because safety is huge.
Huge. If a patient takes complex herbal mineral preparations, rasa oshadis, and experiences 0 side effects, the absence of harm must be officially recorded.
It builds an empirical defense of the medicine's safety profile over time.
Exactly.
But tracking all of this intricate data requires modern infrastructure. The era of scribbling notes on a pad and shoving them into a dusty filing cabinet is over.
Long over.
The keynote pushes hard for the evolution of the digital Vaidya, requiring the use of Ayurvedic-compatible electronic health records, or EHRs.
And the implementation of EHRs is really the turning point here. It allows the profession to aggregate massive global data sets.
Right.
When you have 10,000 practitioners inputting their data into a unified system, you can start running powerful analytics.
Oh, like you could discover, with statistical certainty, exactly which specific preparation of an herb like guggulu works best for a specific genetic body type.
Yes, they're prakriti.
Right. During a specific season of the year, like the monsoon season, Varsha Ritu.
The level of granularity they can achieve is just astounding.
It really is. Yeah. And it isn't just numbers and charts either. The directive heavily emphasizes visual technology.
Photos.
Yes. There's a brilliant simplicity in using standardized, perfectly lit before and after photography.
Oh, absolutely.
If a practitioner is treating a severe skin condition like kushta or managing complex wound healing, vrana,
high-definition photos taken with identical lighting and angles serve as irrefutable evidence.
you can debate a symptom questionnaire all day long, but you cannot argue with the visual reality of a healed wound.
The evidence must leave no room for doubt.
So what does this all mean? If we step back and synthesize everything we've analyzed from this keynote, the core takeaway is profound.
It really is.
The survival of an ancient medical system in the 21st century is not about changing the medicine itself. The botanicals, the oils, the foundational philosophy, those all remain intact.
Yeah.
It's entirely about changing how transparent, how measurable, and how reproducible its results are.
It's about taking that ghost of an anecdote and giving it a documented, undeniable physical form.
There's a quote from Acharya Charaka, one of the principal founders of Ayurveda, that was highlighted in the address. He wrote, "The whole world is a teacher for the wise."
A great quote.
Today, the modern, data-driven world is teaching Ayurveda that to unlock the great secrets of its past, its ancient texts and agantas, it must rigorously document the present.
By tracking liver enzymes and inflammatory markers, these practitioners are actively proving that ancient concepts of Agni or digestive fire and the doshas are real, measurable physiological processes.
They're learning the language of the modern laboratory to prove that their ancient texts were right all along.
Exactly.
The speaker leaves the doctors with a powerful mandate. Let our results be loud, but let our data be louder.
Let our data be louder.
And that leaves me with a final thought that I want you to mull over as we wrap up this deep dive. We started by imagining this 5,000-year-old system sitting in a modern courtroom, fighting to prove its worth through the lens of systems biology and clinical data.
Right.
If an oral tradition this ancient can successfully adapt to the ultra-exacting standards of modern data-driven systems biology to prove its worth, well, what else is out there? What other profound ancient human wisdom might currently be dismissed as mere anecdote simply because we haven't bothered to build the right emulator to measure it yet?